Hello, paddle community. Thrilled to have you here, whether it's Thursday afternoon, evening, maybe even Friday morning. This is our weekly Supconnect Live, where we talk to the fascinating people of the stand-up paddle world and from all over the world. And we're going across the pond today to talk to a truly amazing gentleman that I hope to meet you in person someday, Jordan. He is so many things, has been a soldier, is an author, has been on some really well-known UK TV shows. Adventurer is, I think, what he's spent a lot of time. I know he's a parent also. I'm going to call him a philanthropist because he's done some amazing things for different causes, and best known in our stand-up paddle world for his 2020 expedition, adventure. Unfortunately got cut short by COVID, but you're going to hear about it. He went farther than anyone ever has. So for many, many days he was on the water, and I'll let him share that, called the Great British Paddle. So without further ado, Mr. Jordan Wylie. Jordan, on the Instagram stage. It's been so fun what we can do here on during the pandemic. There he is. Oh, good. Oh, I don't even have my earbuds in. Whoops. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Great. Well, I know it's late in the evening there and you have kids, so really, really appreciate you doing this. And you're a speaker by trade too. So we only have half an hour, but it's so wonderful that you're willing to share with us. Supconnect does have an international crowd, but you probably know I'm way over in San Clemente, California. But I'm wearing my UK shirt that I have from Sarah.
Brilliant.
Does it look familiar? She's a big fan of yours and everything going on there. She's been such a great connector for me. Just love that. Yeah.
She's a good girl and a great inspiration over here in the UK too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard the intro. You do so many things. I can't believe looking into what, and you're young, how much you've done in your life so far. I hope you're very proud of all those accomplishments. We're going to focus in today, since this is a stand-up paddle show, about your 2020 amazing adventure that, although it got cut short, I know I tuned in here and there. You had some ups and downs for sure. There were some scary days, but let's back up a little bit. I know you've been a runner, you've been a soldier, you have done a lot of things after your military service, which is, I know, different in every country, but I saw you did a children's book with one of your children, a coloring book about the world and being a traveler. That's really cool. But let's go about paddling. When did you find it? Where did you find it? How did you decide to become a stand-up paddler in order to do this amazing expedition?
Yeah, well, it was quite strange, really, how it came about, because at the start of 2020, I'd not really done any stand-up paddleboarding before. Yeah, so I sort of stumbled across it down my local rivers and saw people were on these, what looked like to me like ironing boards, what you did your ironing on in your laundry, you know, and I thought, this looks really cool. What are these people doing? And, you know, it just really took off from there, because I gave it a go, and I was on my local rivers, and I thought, this is really nice just to be immersed in nature. So good for the mental health, you know, just really being out there at one and reconnecting with the natural environment. And what I was supposed to be doing at the start of 2020, I was trying to run 10 marathons in the 10 coldest places on Earth.
Oh, wow.
So I did the first 4, and I came close I came into the US as well, actually. So I did Alaska, I did the Yukon in Canada, I did Siberia in Russia, and then I did Iceland. And I was going to the North Pole to do my marathon number 5, and the whole world went into lockdown. And obviously we're all stuck at home, we're all getting tired and stressed by the pandemic. And when the first lockdown lifted, I was thinking, how can I carry on my challenge for fundraising to try and inspire children around the world and inspire hope for education? And I came up with this idea of, well, if I started paddling, well, then I can be socially distanced, I can be isolated, and nobody has to come near me. And I could live at sea if I got a support boat, so I wouldn't be breaching any of the sort of rules and regulations. And that was really where the Great British Paddle started. And I got on my paddleboard on the 26th of July, and I'd not really, completely honest, I'd not been on the ocean doing any paddling at all. And so I really was learning the hard way, and it was incredibly tough. Those first few weeks was just brutal, relentless. I think I spent more time in the water than actually on the board for the first few weeks.
Yeah, well, I have paddleboarded for a dozen years and in different conditions, so I can't imagine what you jumped into, but good for you for being so adventurous and brave. And I mean, if you run marathons in cold temperatures, that's something to me that sounds absolutely crazy. But I can imagine that you had some sore muscles and yeah, a little bit of humbling experience those first few weeks. Um, Again, I think it sounds like your background really set you up, though, to be. You talk about mental health, and we've had a lot of that. How lucky we are that we were able to get outside, and those of us who love ocean or whatever it is, even if it wasn't for the organized events that weren't allowed in most of the world. And in fact, it's exactly a year today, isn't it? Or this week, the pandemic. Yeah. So did you find what you've done in your life prepare you for this mentally, even though the physical challenge you just mentioned was huge?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, I joined the military in the UK. We can join at 16 years old, which is obviously very young. And I left high school and joined the British Army, and I spent the next 10 years in the army. And I think all those lessons of travel, of discipline, of motivation, of, that spirit of adventure, that was really the same characteristics that I used every day on the paddle. I think discipline was a really interesting sort of character trait that I used a lot every day on the paddle, and something that I took from my military service, because, when you're out in the winter and you're dealing with, the Great British coastline, which is one of the toughest coastlines in the world in terms of tidal movement and currents and things, every day is a different day, and it's absolutely brutal. And I think there were many days, to be honest, where I didn't want to get out of my sleeping bag and I didn't want to paddle, but you need to have that discipline to still turn up on the days when you don't want to paddle if you want to make progress. So I think lots of lessons from the military about, that sort of ability to carry on even when times are tough, and still keep moving forward if you want to make progress. So definitely everything that I've done prepared me, I think, in that respect.
Yeah. So 149 days and 7.5 hours. And then you kind of got shut down by kind of the reason you did it, but also it's what pulled you off the water. It was COVID regulations.
Yeah, it was COVID regulations. We set out to try and I was trying to attempt to paddleboard around Great Britain, a full circumnavigation, which has never been done. And we made some incredible progress. Nearly 5 months at sea, paddling daily, 2,377 kilometers of paddling, 149 days. It was an incredible adventure. And a lot of people ask, you must have been so disappointed, but absolutely I wasn't. For me, I started off on this expedition to try and raise £100,000, which is about $150,000 for a new school in Africa, and we've raised that money. So not only did we set out with achieving our goal, but we also had an amazing adventure and met lots of incredible people from the coastal communities around Great Britain. So many people supported from around the world. So many people reached out to help us. And what I would really like to say about the Sup community was, it's probably one of the most humbling communities that I've ever had to adventure in, because I've done lots of different adventures from running and climbing and all sorts of weird and wonderful things around the world. But what I really liked about the Sup community was there was never any egos. Everyone only wanted to help. They just wanted to support and help. And I came into it as a brand new paddler. I'm not a professional paddler. I still don't claim to be in any way, shape or form, but I was just someone who loves an adventure and loves a challenge. And I got so much support. And the people that I came out to paddle with me along the way, people that you will know from the community, like Sarah, like Marie Buchanan, Ginny Betts, all these incredible British paddlers. They taught me so much, and really helped me, and I was really grateful for everything they did for me. So, really humbled by the community.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm sure it's reciprocal that you're a wonderful human. And we do have a great community around the globe, and have had a chance to meet some of those ladies you mentioned, and they are fantastic. So I'm glad you felt supported. We can't talk about the 140 all days, but maybe a high point and a low point. What was definitely, you mentioned the challenge of the first few weeks of learning to deal with that ocean, but can you tell of a couple days that were that really stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I think in terms of the toughest parts of it, physically and mentally, was definitely crossing the Irish Sea. You know, to cross the Irish Sea from Wales to Ireland was, it took me 4 or 5 days of battling the elements, the waves. You know, it's something that's not been done that many times anyway. So to do that, you know, a lot of people told me it wasn't possible, which I think made me more determined to get there in the end. And then I think taking on the west coast of Scotland in the winter, you know, in December, going all the way up the west coast of Scotland was, it was brutal. It was, you know, it was not conducive for paddling. You know, sailors and fishermen were telling me that they don't even take the boats where I was going, and I'm going on this little paddleboard. So it was an amazing adventure. But it was Scotland was probably the most beautiful, but also the most brutal aspect, I think, because it was absolutely breathtaking, the scenery on the west coast of Scotland. It's, you know, I've been very lucky to travel a lot of the world to some extreme environments, but Scotland on the west coast is absolutely majestic. So very privileged to have paddled that part, I think. But high points for me, I think just meeting the amazing people along the way. I think two of the greatest gifts in life are travel and meeting new people. And you know, all the different people in the coastal communities that reached out to help. We slept in tents, we slept in gardens, we slept in bed and breakfast, caravans, spare bedrooms. You know, we just had such an amazing adventure. So I think the people are really what make great adventures, and that was that was the highlight for me, just meeting amazing people from across Great Britain. Really, really humbling.
That's wonderful, and I'm so glad that you were able to do it during this very, you know, strange year, because travel wasn't allowed in ways that those of us like you and I who love travel were able to do. But you certainly made an absolutely fantastic adventure. I do want to touch on, and you mentioned a little bit, I mean, it sounds like, is it your charity, the Frontline Children Education Initiative? Is that yours?
Yeah, it's a charity, yeah, that I helped set up. I'm an ambassador of the charity. So we very much focus on raising funds to provide education for children in war and conflict zones like Iraq and Afghanistan. We're a very small charity. We are a charity of only volunteers. We don't have any salaried staff or anything. So we know that every penny we raise goes directly to the children on the front line. So it's a really important charity to me personally, as a former soldier, to try and, you know, inspire hope. Because I think when you've served in these countries and you've seen the plight of children firsthand and what they go through on a daily basis, you know, you can't help but want to try and make a small difference. And, you know, I know that we're never going to change the world with our little charity, but we will change the world for a couple of children out there. And I think if you can do a little, you know, it's really important in this life, I think.
Absolutely. I'm there with you. And it looks like you've helped out other charities too along the way. So huge congratulations that you did meet your fundraising goal, even though you couldn't do the whole thing. But this is a world record. Did you submit to Guinness Book of World Records, since it's the most days ever on the water, or how does that work? I know it has a lot of red tape to it.
Yeah, we've been invited. So obviously the attempt was to circumnavigate Great Britain, but we've been advised that we can apply to take the official Guinness World Record for the longest stand-up paddleboard journey by sea. We're probably not going to submit it, because the main reason being that my objective was to build a school in Africa. I always think that it's not, for me, it's not about what I did, it's about why we did it as a community. And when I say community, everybody in the paddling community, everybody in the public who donated. You know, for me, getting records are great and they're good for media and they're good for attracting attention, but actually it's just a piece of paper that goes on the wall in the office gathering dust. It's about changing lives, you know, it's about inspiring the next generation. That's what really matters. So, you know, records are good, and you know, we could claim a few, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, well, you absolutely are inspiring. Maybe you could share, for those who want to go on an adventure, an expedition, what are a few tips maybe you could give us?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, you know, I think it's about believing in yourself. I think it's like anything in life. You know, before you, especially when you're going on a big expedition and you're trying to raise funds and sponsorship, I think firstly you've got to believe in yourself. You know, as I say, I started with no paddling, stand-up paddleboard experience. I came into the challenge. A lot of people said I wouldn't, you know, make it even 1/10 of the way the distance I did. But if you're going to try and convince the rest of the world to believe in you, you first have got to believe in you. You've got to wake up every day with a goal. You've got to live and breathe that goal every time you get out of bed in the morning. And you've got to work hard. You've got to train, and you've got to want it. And so I think believing in yourself is really important. I think your attitude towards towards life, towards daily paddling is absolutely everything. You know, you can find positives. If you're privileged enough to go out on the water every day, which I was, you've got to maintain a positive attitude throughout. You know, even when the tide's against you, the waves are big and the currents are going the wrong way. You know, you've got to take positives every day. You've got to keep a smile on your face and just keep chipping away. You know, it doesn't matter how big the goal is. If you just make a little bit of progress every day, as long as you're moving forward, you will get there in the end. I think there's a lot to be said in life for perseverance. You know, that ability just to keep moving forward, even when times are tough. Especially with the COVID pandemic, you know, a lot of people have found life, like we all have, very tough at the moment. But I think, you know, you just got to hang in there. And for me, a big mantra on the paddle was, I used to say to myself every morning, just stay in the game for another day. You know, just keep going. Even when you want to give up, just hang in another day. Always quit tomorrow, never quit today. And I think that was really useful. I think, you know, as well, just go and do it, because I think with anything in life, we spend a lot of time talking about things. We spend a lot of time thinking about things. Just get out there and go for it, because if you keep thinking about it, you'll overthink and you'll never get started. You know what? A lot of the things that we learned on the way. You know, even paddling itself, I couldn't paddle when I set off, and now I'm not the best, but I'm a proficient paddler in some extreme conditions that even the best paddlers won't even try and go out in, because you know, they're just not conducive for paddling. So I think just go for it, whatever it is, whatever that dream is, whatever that expedition, whatever that adventure is. Just get out there and go for it. Work the rest out as you go along. As long as you're safe, I think safety has always got to be your number one priority. Stay safe. Make sure you take the right kit and equipment. Make sure you've done your risk assessment. But apart from that, as long as you're safe, you can work the rest out. And I think that's part of the adventure. You know, making it up and working out as you go along. That's all part of that spirit of adventure, I think.
Oh, great advice, both of those. And they do need to go hand in hand, even though they're so different. So I'm glad you mentioned the safety. Sounds like you had a great team around you, and you have a life of experience with that kind of thing, of needing to plan and know what you're getting into. And that's part of travel too, is actually, you know, the plan ahead, but also you can still have that adventure and the unknown with the right things lined up. I totally agree with that. Somebody asked, where in Scotland would you recommend for an intermediate paddler? You did paint a beautiful picture of the coastline of Scotland. I'm ready to paddle there too.
You know, Scotland, the west coast of Scotland is truly magnificent. I think when, you know, in the summer, in the spring and the summer, when the conditions are good, I think you could paddle anywhere along that west coast. You know, if I can paddle it as a brand new paddler in the winter in some really extreme conditions, I think, you know, if you've got a few years of experience and you've spent a lot of time on the water, you know, get up off the west coast of Scotland. I think the Isle of Skye is absolutely beautiful. Some lovely parts up near Tobermory. Anywhere, you know, through the Inner Hebrides Islands is truly magnificent. And there's lots of places in Scotland, what we have in the UK, Scotland allows everyone to wild camp, so you can pull up anywhere, and as long as you know you respect the environment and you tidy up yourselves, you can take a tent and you can camp anywhere legally in Scotland, which is amazing. Brilliant.
That is amazing. Yeah, absolutely lovely. Oh, great. So I hope a lot of you listening who are in the UK, well, actually, even if you're not, in the future when we can go there again, we'll try that out. How about equipment? Did you adapt along the way? Did you have what you needed in terms of what you were wearing, what you were standing on? Was there anything, did you wear gloves?
Yeah, I think because the expedition went on for so long, you know, equipment was absolutely paramount to progress every day. Because when I started in July and finished in nearly the end of December, so we went through a lot of sort of seasons along the way. I had lots of very kind sponsors that you would know from the Sup community, who was constantly giving me lots of pieces of kit. You know, I was never short of kit and equipment, which again is a great testament to the paddle community, who always wanted to help me out in some way. But, you know, I think, again, equipment and kit starts with the risk assessment. You know, you've got to look where you're going to be going, what are the conditions, what's the weather, you know, what are temperatures like, are you going to be paddling alone if you are? Again, things like trackers, personal locator beacons, VHF radios to speak to marine traffic on the water, of course your PFD, your personal flotation device, wetsuits, neoprene, boots, gloves, spare sets of everything, spare batteries for your radios. I did quite a lot of night paddling, so again, making sure that I was lit up, you know, on the ocean, people could see me. So I think any adventure, whether it's on the water or on land, it always starts with a risk assessment. You know, you've got to look, what's the environment you're going into, and then that's where you start looking at the kit and equipment that you're going to need. But, you know, there is an amazing community out there full of advice and people who want to help. In terms of the board I use, people may be interested in the board and the paddle. I used I used an SIC a touring board called the Okeanos. It was 14 by 28. I pretend I know what I'm talking about now because I've done a bit of paddling.
No. You sounded, that's exactly what we want to hear.
Yeah, I had a carbon Blackfish paddle. Paddle from Blackfish. It was the Adaman and the Viento. Two paddles. I had a spare paddle. So yeah, Blackfish, great paddles. I'm not an expert in these, but certainly the SIC board and the Blackfish paddle, I don't have any affiliation or sales commission, but they were both really great bits of kit, and they were perfect for what I was doing. I had no issues at all with them. Really, really good, and you know, they served me well. And to be honest, they took a lot of bashing as well on some of the rocks. Coming into beaches and things in Scotland and Wales, you know, some very rough coastlines. The board especially took a lot of bashing, but it still remained true and resilient throughout, which was great.
I love hearing that. Yeah, we have seen a transition. I love the idea of a touring board at the beginning, partially because where I'm from is surf area, but the surfboard shape was what everybody always started on. But I really think a touring shape that pokes through the water and gives you better glide with each stroke is really, you know, a nice, stable, sturdy one is a great place to start too. So I think we'll see even more of that style of board, exactly what you have. It was a really good one. So I hope we didn't burn you out on stand-up paddling by the absolutely extreme nature and the many months that you were on the water. Do you have visions of when travel opens up, maybe paddling in other places? Any place you'd like to go now that you have this, you know, you're definitely an explorer and a traveler, but what body of water would you like to travel? Where would you like to go paddle?
Do you know, I would love to, something that when people ask me this question when I first finished in December, I had no interest in paddling for the next few months. You know, I was like, I'm all paddled out, I don't want to paddle. But in the last couple of weeks, it started to like come back into my mind where I'm thinking, you know, I need to get back out and have a paddle now. And something that I really want to do one day is definitely go and do one of the paddle the Yukon on a stand-up paddleboard. You know, look at the Yukon River in Canada. I think I spent a little bit of time in the Yukon, but not on the river. And I think something like the Yukon River Quest or the Yukon 1000 would be a really cool adventure to be able to camp out in the wild. You know, feed yourself, cook yourself, make your campfire every night, and then get back on your board and go again the next day. I think that would be a really epic adventure to do.
Yeah, I agree. Although I can't say it's really extreme because you've done something so much bigger and longer than that. But I've seen some videos of it. The whole lack of sleep thing and everything is very fascinating to me, which I bet you had some of already. So that's good. I'm glad that you're no longer burnt out and you do look forward to paddling again. But you do a lot of different adventure things. Do you have a new adventure that you're kind of planning in your head, or is that a new book you're working on?
Yeah, I'm working on a new book at the moment, but for my current adventures, I will head to Antarctica and North Pole next to finish the marathon runs. So I'm due to go to Antarctica in December. It's for the most southerly marathon in the world, the coldest, and then I'll head to North Pole in April next year. And in between then, hopefully lots of UK adventures. You know, just back into Scotland, maybe to see parts of Scotland, the Isle of Skye that I've never had the chance to visit. I think it's a good time at the moment to show people also that you don't need to go to the other side of the world for an amazing adventure. There's lots of them right on our doorstep in the great outdoors here. So that's something I'm really keen to do, especially with young people who perhaps, who sometimes from deprived areas, disadvantaged backgrounds, where they may not get the opportunity to travel a long way. So I think trying to show people that some of the best adventures are closer to home as well is really important this year, I think.
I love that. That's so true. And I look at all water now, any body of water. Can I paddle on it?
Yeah,
Whether it's,
I love it.
small or large, any size.
At the moment as well, in the UK, we see a lot of this wild swimming is becoming really popular again. So just getting in the rivers, the lakes and in the ocean, and just going for a nice cold water dip. This is really popular, and it's something I've really enjoyed the last few weeks. I think it's just like being on the paddleboard in the sense that it's really good for your mental health. You're immersed in nature, and it's just about reconnecting, I think, with the wild. And that's what I loved about the paddleboard expedition. It was just being out there every day. I think being on the water and likewise being in the mountains, it's the best medicine in the world for mental health and well-being, I think.
Yeah, and it actually, I believe in your area too, most of the world, that was a silver lining to this pandemic, was that people found the outside who weren't outdoors people because they weren't able to get their exercise in any indoor facility or do some of the things they're used to. So the increase in paddleboarding and kayaking and mountain biking and hiking and camping, huge. They ended up, these businesses that thought they were going to go out of business this year ended up having very strange but successful years. So that's, I think, great news. So you were on a TV show, or maybe it's two different ones. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if they show it here in the US, called Hunted and Celebrity Hunted, but it sounds like it's a popular one in the UK. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a great fun show, Hunted. We've done 6 series in the UK over the last 6 years. We've done one show in the US, and it didn't take off, unfortunately. I don't know. I think we have.
I want to see it.
Yeah, it's a really great concept. We have it's a reality show where we send 10 civilians from all aspects of society. We send them on the run as like fugitives, and then we have to, as the ex-military, ex-police, ex-intelligence type people, we have to have a month to catch them. We have 30 days to try and catch them, and we hack all their computers, we check their bank statements, we interrogate the families, and we got to find them. And if they get to the end of it, they win £100,000, and we've got to stop them getting to the end of the 30 days. So it's a great fun. It's like a real life game of like hide and seek or manhunt. So it's very popular in the UK, and to be honest, it's a real privilege to be a part of, because I think one of the great things about working on that show is it gives me a bit of a public platform to do some good with the charity stuff and work with children. I think the world, dare I say it, is there's a lot of very uninspiring famous people in the world, and I always think that with social media, I think with all these different sort of influencers that we see, I really think we should see more accountability. I think that if you're going to be preaching messages to the masses with your millions of followers or whatever it is, I really believe that should come with some accountability. Because we're talking to the next generation every day. We're putting out tweets, we're putting out Instagram posts. I think the messages should always be inspiring, encouraging, educational. I have a real sort of bee in my bonnet about very uninspiring famous people who are just not good for society. So I think that if you are fortunate enough to have a little bit of a profile, you should try and use it to do good in the world. I think it's a responsibility, even dare I say it.
Oh, I love that. And I would expand it to the famous and the rich, the wealthy in the US, who aren't making a difference when they have this amazing platform to do so, and amazing ability to. So good for you. You are an amazing example of that. So good to get to meet you. I want to respect your time because I promised only a half an hour. I know it's late there, and it's just been a pleasure to meet you. And I hope I get to meet you in person someday, whether it's, I can't run. Well, I shouldn't say I can't. I haven't ever run a marathon, so I probably won't be running with you. I'm going to make you paddle when you get to California in between the North and the South Pole. You should stop in the US sometime on the West Coast, or when you're doing Alaska, right down the coast just a little ways. But Jordan Wylie, amazing. Everyone, we have a Facebook page. This also gets recorded, so if anybody didn't get to listen, it will be immediately on IGTV on Supconnect, and then it will go to YouTube. both Supconnects and KT Outside mine, and you're welcome to. I know you get quite a bit of media, and really wonderful of you to take the time to do this, Jordan. Best of luck to you and all that you're doing. Thank you for what you've done. And yeah, marathon next, I guess. So good luck with those polar marathons. Great stuff. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to meet you and a real privilege to be on. And keep up the amazing work as well. It's a great show, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jordan. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.